Good afternoon. It's Lee Cassidy for our uh, SME Monday. So on a Monday, we try to talk to some of our small and medium enterprise customers and just give you a picture of some of the things that you could be doing to help your organization. And today we're going to focus on how you can get around ransomware. And we're going to explain a little bit about ransomware and how you can actually protect yourself from it. So let's first start talking about ransomware itself and what ransomware is. So I've got some little banners just to keep me on track as we go through. So ransomware itself is where someone can take control of your desktop or your server computer systems, and then what they'll do is encrypt them using an encryption tool so that you can't have access to them. So it could be all of your customer records, your on-premise accounting platforms such as Sage, Line 50. It could be a number of things, including your email and any other files that you may have stored locally on either a local machine or on a server. Once they've encrypted them, they'll put banners up on your computer to say these have been encrypted and you need to pay this amount of money to be able to recover from it. And what they're looking for you to is to pay a fine, well, an amount of money to them, a ransom, and then they'll give you a key, or they'll just unencrypt the files. The chances are, if you pay them, you may still not get unencrypted, so you may end up paying a load of money for no reason at all anyway. So there are a number of things that we can do to protect ourselves around this, and one of them is to start to use a bit more interesting technology for backup and recovery. A lot of people, especially in the small business community, will use things like removable drives, and they'll copy files onto them, or use a soft piece of software to copy files onto those removable drives, and then remove them and swap them daily, or sometimes only weekly, depending on the organization. There are a couple of issues there. We need to look at how long it's going to take you to recover from those, and also how far back you need to go. And for that, we need to consider a thing called RPO and RTO. So RPO and RTO mean two different things. I'm going to go old school and use a whiteboard to explain this. So if we think of this line as being time, moving forwards, and we have an incident. So at this point in time, we have some kind of either a ransomware attack or a failure of our system, so our files get corrupted, or we have a hardware failure that causes a problem. So this is the point where we have this particular incident, whatever it is. What we're going to do then is look how far back we need to go to be able to recover. That's our recovery point objective. So a lot of organizations, that recovery point objective will be something like 12 to 24 hours, because they're only doing backups every night or every early morning. So you've got to go back, and it all depends on when this incident occurs. So if the incident occurs an hour after those backups have been completed, you're going to go back 1 hour. If they're going to go back an hour before they're complete and they run every 24 hours, it's going to be 23 hours, the distance back. So that time is the distance between the incident and that recovery point objective. So how far do you need to go back? So how much data am I going to lose? The next thing is our recovery point, our recovery time objective. So how far forward do I need to go now to be able to recover? So how quickly can I access those backed up data files? How quickly is it going to allow me to recover them using the software that I've got and the systems I have? So the time here is how much time is it going to take me to recover? In total, though, we're going to lose our RPO, so a certain amount of time backwards. A lot of organizations, like I say, it's going to be 12 to 24 hours. And then going forward, normally we're looking at between 2 and 48 hours for recovery for most organizations. But this can be a bit of a challenge. It takes quite a bit of time to recover, so we're going to lose quite a bit of work and potentially quite a bit of money from it as well. And especially if you're an organization that's got very transactional business, it could be quite a lot. The other issue you've got is not only the loss of data and the loss of business from it, there's also the issue of reputation, because if it gets out that people have actually either encrypted your data or stolen your data, that can have a really issue with your customers and potential customers going forward, as many organizations have seen over the last number of years when they've had major outages or they've lost data to hackers. It can be that reputational issue is actually the biggest cost to the business, not the time and not the amount of data business has lost. So let's think about another thing. So we've backed all our files up to this removable drive, or we've using some kind of software product to copy backups or snapshots, as we tend to call them, onto some kind of disk infrastructure, either locally or in a cloud environment. But one of the problems we've got is, what if those actual files, those backup files, those snapshots are encrypted? So what the hackers have seen is it's quite easy for an organization to recover from a ransomware incident by effectively taking a copy of their previous backups and writing that over the top of the server or desktop infrastructure and recovering. They may lose time because of the RPO and RTO that we've just covered, but they can recover to a point in time and they don't need to pay the ransom. So what happens is most of the hackers now will actually look for any repositories that look like they've got backup or snapshot data and encrypt those first to stop you having the ability to actually recover with those. So immutability is having those files in a situation where they can't be altered. So if the hackers can't actually modify those or encrypt those or delete those files, it then makes it really difficult for them to stop you recovering from a point in time snapshot or a backup process that you followed. So immutability is really important when you're actually doing these kind of backups. So whatever technology you use, we need to have immutability for it. So what I was going to do is show you something that we utilize to do this. We've got a service that we offer to small and medium businesses, utilizing a technology from Rubrik, which allows us to do very quick backups, but also very quick restores. So we'll be looking at here potentially 12 to 48 hours for someone, depending on how often they do their backups, and the RTO being anything between 2 hours and 48 hours to recover, depending on what infrastructure is in place. We can actually make this shrink back to around about 17 seconds. So we can go back a minute and the 17 seconds to recover. So the most of business you're going to lose is about a minute and a half of it. So a very, very small amount. And we do this by using a piece of software running on a piece of hardware we implement onto your organization. Or if you're already utilizing things like VMware, we can actually incorporate into your VMware environment. But again, this uses immutability, so you can't have the files altered, so you've always got a capability to recover. And secondly, what we do is we keep a copy of them locally on our machines in our data center in a secure environment, again, so that you've always got a capability to recover at some point in time, and usually very, very quickly. So what I'll do is I'll show you that quickly. So I just need to bring up my screen and show you that. So you should be able to see my screen now. And this is just a dashboard that gives you a picture of what's happening with your infrastructure. And if we supply this solution, you have access to this dashboard. We can also make it so you have read-only access. If you're worried about doing anything that you shouldn't do, we can actually make it read-only so you can just have visibility of it. What we can then see is, the number of backups have happened in the last 24 hours, how many have failed, how many have been cancelled, how many have been completed, and how many are scheduled, because some of them might be going in the future as well. So we can see what's happening there. We can also see the number of machines that we're actually protecting. So we're looking at vSphere virtual machines in this case, so utilizing VMware. And we've got 41 protected, and we've got 5 that are not protected. So what we can do with the system is set up to, by default, protect everything with a basic protection package. And then all the other machines, we can actually give them a particular, what we call an SLA, a service level agreement. So, you know, how often that they're backed up and how long the data is retained for. So like basic systems that aren't really important, we may do just once daily, but systems that are quite important to us and critical, we might do every 4 hours, every hour, or even provide continual data protection, which we can do. So every time anything changes on that system, it's up to date and keep that there. We just need to consider how much storage space we need to be able to do all that. But because of the system utilizes a thing called deduplication and compression, we can keep down the amount of space that's required to do that. So once we've got that in place, what we can do is actually look at the virtual machines that we've got. And if we look at vSphere virtual machines here, it'll actually bring up all the machines that we've got that are running on vSphere in our data center at the moment. I can also then search for things by using, say, demo or something like that to actually find a particular machine. Or in this case, I'm going to use a customer system. And I'm going to go and look for this particular RDS machine. So what we can do here is see an overview, so we can see which vCenter this machine is a part of, which hosts it's currently running on. It doesn't matter if you know, the system utilizes DRS, you know, where we can distribute our workloads automatically across multiple hosts. This will actually see where it is at the time it was snapshotted. It tells us which snapshot SLA it's set up in. So at the moment, this is with a default backup. We can also see, you know, when the last the oldest snapshot was taken, when the latest one, so the latest one was 12:06 this morning. So this machine has been backed up just once a day, because it's only an RDS machine or a remote desktop server machine, so it doesn't really matter too much. So what we can do then is look across at the different backups. So if I go back to Sunday, and we've got Sunday the 4th, and I click on that, we can see the list of backups on that day. And as this is done only once a day, we can see it. It was done at 12:30 or 12:18 a.m. What I can do now is click on these three dots, and I've got a number of options I can do as we go down here. So one of the things we can do is do a thing called place on legal hold. So what we can do is ensure that that snapshot is never modified. It can't be deleted, so that if there was some kind of dispute with a customer or a supplier, and we needed to keep a copy of the data at that point in time to be able to prove what the situation was at that time, we can use that legal hold capability to do that. The other thing we can do is recover files. And if we want to recover files, what we can do is look onto the system, and we can go to a particular drive and go to a particular place, and we can select a whole of a folder or a particular number of files. And then as we move forward, we get options to download them. So copy it down to with this browser that I'm using's local download folder. We can overwrite the original. We can restore to a separate folder, so create a new folder and put it there, which might be, you know, because the user doesn't really know which files have been corrupted or which ones they've accidentally deleted, and they want to see a whole folder so they can pick the ones that they want and copy them back into the original place. So we've got a number of options we can do there, and then in the end we can finish, and it will actually go through that operation and quite quickly recover those files to where they were. So I'll cancel that. And some of the other things we can do is we can actually mount the virtual machine, which is effectively creating a copy of that particular machine, and we can run it in parallel with the original virtual machine. We can do an instant recover, which will actually effectively power off the original machine, create, using that snapshot, a new machine, and then bring it up at that point in time that we've actually recovered to. And again, this takes around about 17 seconds. It's very, very quick to recover. We can also mount the virtual disks themselves. So if we don't want to have the whole of the virtual machine, but we want to have some disks, maybe we've got some shared folders on a particular disk, we want to mount those, we can mount that and attach that to a machine as well. So we've got lots of options to be able to both back up and recover a machine. What I'm going to do though is I'm actually going to go and show you how long it takes to actually do a snapshot for a particular machine. So I'm going to go back to these virtual machines and I'm going to pick a particular one. So we're going to go with that ABRDS 01. So I'm going to select that one. And what I'm going to do at the top here, I can take an on-demand snapshot. So that means I'm deciding I want to take a copy now. I hit on-demand snapshot and it's suggesting which SLAs I can put this into. So I can move to a particular SLA for retention purposes, but I'll use the traditional one that we use for that particular customer. And I click next, and then I take the on-demand snapshot, and roughly, 30 seconds to a minute later, I've got a copy of that ready to go. I'm not going to do that because there's no point having some additional snapshots here. If I want to recover, again, all I need to do is go to that particular machine, pick the day I want to recover to. So if I'd had my issue on Friday of last week, I could go back to Thursday. Then what I can do is either mount the virtual machine, so I've got a copy of it, or I can do an instant recover. If I do a mount the virtual machine, I can pick where I want to put that machine, so I can keep it where it was on the original host machine. If I don't have any other machines, it won't show them, and then I can make some decisions about what I want to do with that. So one is I want to remove the network devices, so when it comes up on the system, it's not going to affect the original machine that we had there. Once I've done that, I can click mount, and that system is now being mounted. So it's going through the process and setting up that particular recovery point, and within around about 17 to 18 seconds, that system will be live, ready to go. And what we can do is go over to live mounts here. Under vSphere live mounts, we can actually see that machine now is just on its way to power up. In fact, it is powered on now, so it's ready for access. But because we told it not to connect the network, we don't have any network connections set at the side of it, which is a good thing because we don't want to cause any issues with the original. So, but if we wanted to recover the complete machine as it was, we could have done that instant recover. We would have overwritten the one. But it's really simple to use. The service we offer, which we call Tactile Protect, we actually do all the management of this for our customers, because most of our small to medium enterprise customers don't really have the skills in-house to be able to do all the backup and recovery work. So we do it for you. We'll actually set up a schedule. We'll monitor and manage that, and also do all the recoveries for you as well, whether that's a file recovery, a complete machine recovery. And what we can also do is offer you a disaster recovery capability, which is that you've had a flood, you've had a fire, you've had some electrical issues, so the infrastructure that you'd normally use in-house can't be accessed anymore. We can actually create machines in our data center, again, instantly, to give you access over a virtual private network, and you can utilize those from the point of failure, so you've got no loss of service when you're delivering to your customer. We can also provide remote desktop access to it, so you can actually use home PCs or laptops at home to access them, rather than trying to buy in new equipment if they've been soiled through a flood, or they've got some problems because of fire and things. So really simple capability. And to restore back to where we were before, we can also then quite quickly unmount and power off. So if I do an unmount, that's going to shut that machine down, and also it's going to remove the copy that we've made as we've done it. So it's that simple. click the selection, click OK, and that's now disappearing off the system. And again, within around about 17 to 20 seconds, that will be gone. As you see, it's just disappeared off the system now. So that recovery is being, that restores has now gone. So we're actually back to where we were previously. So really, really quick to get back to where we were. So I'm just going to drop back and stop sharing my screen. But what it'd be good just to give you an idea is some of the other things that we're doing this week. So on Wednesday, we've got our Enterprise Wednesday. So it's focused at larger organizations, but SMEs are happy for you to join us. And what we're talking about is Office 365 backup and recovery. A lot of people have this assumption that by taking Microsoft's Office 365 service, the data is backed up for you, but this is not the case. What they're doing is they're providing the infrastructure, make sure the infrastructure works, but they're not backing up that data so you can recover any point in time. They do have some services, but they are quite basic services for archiving. But what we can offer is a complete backup and recovery for email, OneDrive, SharePoint, and also Teams files and folders. So a really simple way to protect all of your infrastructure. And when we set it up, it does it every 4 hours, and we can actually recover to any point in time after you've actually taken the service on. So we don't have any limit. So it's not limited to a year or 2 years. You can, as long as you've got the service, it's unlimited numbers of backups and recovery points going back through those 4 hourly backups that you have. The other thing we got on Friday is we're going to talk about environmental sensors and cameras to monitor for physical security. So you can see what's happening in your environment, if people are moving around, people who should be, people who shouldn't be. But also looking at how you can protect both your staff and visitors through environmental issues such as noise and dust particles in the air. A lot of people are starting to consider that it's quite important to understand what's happening from a noise and dust perspective in their working environments, because again, you could be sued by both an employee or a guest if later on there was some issues around hearing damage or problems with breathing on the back of inhaling dust. So we've got full monitoring capabilities, but we can link them to cameras to show who's in the vicinity as well, so you can notify people if they've been exposed to loud noises or dust or many other things. And that's on Friday at 3 o'clock. But also we've got a cloud native event that's coming up on the 28th of July. This is going to be an online event for about 5 hours, starting at 1 o'clock. We've got a number of keynote speakers talking about cloud native and what cloud native means to them and to other organizations. We're going to talk about how you can create private cloud, how you can actually utilize hybrid environments, and how simple it can be to actually create a bare metal Kubernetes implementation in around about 15 minutes. On top of that, we're looking at the full ecosystem. So we're looking at storage, utilizing SQL Server within containers. And we've also got a session plus a keynote around observability, but also observability plus. So not only monitoring that infrastructure wherever it resides, but actually be able to remediate any issues with it. So automate the process of restarting processes and many other things to be able to deal with them. So hopefully you can join us for one of those events. Thank you for joining me today. Hopefully you find it interesting, and I look forward to seeing you at one of the other events that we do in the future. Thank you very much.